Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
You can feel sorry for yourself for like a day and then get over it, because you know what? We need to do more. We need to improve our services, improve our processes. You know, we were doing well, but I said we should be doing better. And it actually forced us, and it provided us the time to get better.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
What's up, all my Slick Talkers? You are listening to the one and only Hostfully Highlight Series here on Slick Talk. This means every Friday I have partnered up with my friends at Hostfully to interview their amazing property managers around the world to see what they're doing, how they used this time during the COVID-19 pandemic in order to optimize the tools that are currently already in their toolbox, like Hostfully themselves. You're listening to the Hostfully Highlight Series. Now, onto the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and today I'm interviewing Nick, who is the owner of Osa Property Management based in Costa Rica. So I don't think we've ever had a Costa Rica property management company on the show, nor a guest from Costa Rica. So Nick, I'm really glad to have you on the show, and thanks for being on today.
Well, thank you so much, Will. It's truly a pleasure, and I have to say pura vida to open this up for sure. That's the popular phrase in Costa Rica, kind of like aloha in Hawaii. It stands
perfect.
Kind of is like a hello, goodbye, and if you don't know what to say, you say pura vida.
I love it. Pura vida, everybody, and all the Slick Talk listeners listening. Let's get into it. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about your background. I think you have quite the extensive history with real estate, but I want to kind of hear your story from the beginning and then leading into creating Osa.
Sure. So going way back, I was a marketing professional, and I got my undergrad degree from Cornell, although I was in the business school and economics major. Had I known I would have ended up in hospitality. I would have gone to the hospitality and hotel management school. But nonetheless, so I was in marketing. I got my MBA at Indiana University, the Kelly School for, again, marketing and strategy. And I had a stint as an investment banker, doing mergers and acquisitions, and then 5 to 6 years being a director of sports marketing for a company that had a magazine and a TV show on Fox Sports, and it involved primarily bass fishing. But I ended up in Costa Rica, and during that time I worked in New Zealand and Australia for another company as well. So the international flavor's kind of always been there. So I had a semester in undergrad in Australia. Then I found a job in Minnesota, but then I was based in New Zealand first, Auckland, and then in Australia again. So fast forward to about the mid 2005, and a friend of mine said, I want to go to Costa Rica and invest some money. And at the time, like I said, I was doing corporate marketing. And I said, sure, let's go for it. The time I had enough kind of passive investments in terms of real estate, and I had a little bit of extra money sitting around. So I thought, sure, I love to travel. And the worst case, I'm going to have a 4-day, it was just a quick in and out 4-day vacation to Costa Rica. And I fell in love with it immediately. So absolutely loved it. And there wasn't any one thing. It was just kind of the whole spirit of Costa Rica, if you will. It reminded me a bit of Australia in terms of lots of jungles. Parts of Australia have lots of jungles. People love their sport in Costa Rica, and the only sport that matters is soccer versus Aussie rules or rugby. But the people were fantastic. Absolutely fell in love with the people. So over the next 5, 6 years, I was involved with a real estate company in Costa Rica. We launched a full brokerage firm from scratch with 4 offices. And then the financial crisis of 2000, what happened in the United States in 2007 to 9 was delayed a bit just because in Costa Rica, it didn't really start hitting to late 08, early 09 and bled into 2011. And part of that was just that the people weren't sure how serious this was. And so, as they started losing their primary assets in the United States, then of course, secondary assets started falling. So, and during that same time, I built a house in 2009 and had my very first renter in the house, January 1st, 2010. So it's an easy kind of date to remember. And as I look back, I'm embarrassed. So I feel I'm embarrassed by what we didn't have. There were no curtains, there was no satellite TV. We didn't have, and at the time, and the challenge of Costa Rica, even to this day, in some parts, is no cell phone signal, and that's true for certain homes we manage now. We're in a really developing area. So the company name is Osa Property Management, and Osa is a region of Costa Rica. It's a Southern Pacific region of Costa Rica. It's the last area to be developed in the entire country. So a lot of times when people have been to Costa Rica, they may have been to Northern Costa Rica and Guanacaste, it's called. The Four Seasons is there, the Westin is there. Where we are, there's no international hotel chains. Where we manage homes, the nearest McDonald's is an hour away. The nearest, there's one movie theater, one golf course within 2.5 hours south of us and 2.5 hours north of us. So it's a very different market. And that's what people love about it. And that's what some people think they're going to love about it. But then, they arrive and we all have our own challenges as property managers in that. So, and then OSA was started. And so I own a 150 acre development and I've built a couple of houses there. And through the years, people wanted me to manage their homes because I was managing mine. And about 2 years ago, I branded Osa Property Management. So, and that was, it was all about finding the right person. And I finally found the talent that I needed, and I hired her away from a different company. It wasn't a property management company, but she was working elsewhere. And then since then, now we manage, as of today, we have 23 homes in our that we manage, and we have a construction crew, and we have a landscaping crew, and we do pool service as well. Most of that's outsourced, and then a home cleaning crew. So, and that's most of that growth has been, and we grew during COVID. So I don't want to jump ahead, but a lot of that was what growth has been in the last 6 months.
Well, I was going to say, sounds like you guys had a real Brian Chesky moment with your first property with no blinds, no nothing, just a property and just let's get it up there, huh?
Yes. And I remember this distinctly, there was no rugs and the guy slipped and
oh no.
Hit his head, it was kind of one of those things. But again, there was no cell phone coverage. So you wouldn't find out till the next day if there was any issues or not. So.
No, that's very true. And then, so I want to kind of jump in on the 150 acre farm or land that you have. Okay. For one, tell us what made you go like, I'm going to buy all of this and we're going to build on it. And then, I guess where it's at now, where do you see it being in the future?
Sure. So I had zero experience developing land, and my former business partner had zero experience in developing land either. So we took all of that knowledge, wink, wink, took all of that knowledge and went to Costa Rica, where again, the rules are different, the language is different and everything else. And we made a lot of mistakes. That's how we did it. We raised money initially from shareholders, or we went out and raised private money and to buy the raw land. And then until the crisis hit, we were doing pretty well. We pre-sold some lots and things were going pretty well. And then the crisis hit, and the good news is we survived. There at the time, I've heard varying numbers, but there were about 20 to 25 developments within an hour region of us. We were one of about 4 that made it through with the same ownership structure. And that ownership structure also changed. I bought out my partner, and over the years, I bought out pretty much the rest of the other shareholders. And what I feel good about is nobody lost money. So, I said, we've had to gear it back up a couple times. Laws have changed. So as we started going down a path, then the crisis hit, then I was buying out my partners. And then there was, if anyone's developed land, you run into issues in terms of developments. And something to think about in Costa Rica, for example, is, to develop land where there's already roads and there's already water and there's already electricity and there's already internet, that's kind of easy. But what I just said, where we bought, they didn't have any of that. It had a public road access to it, but then, to put internal roads in, there weren't any. To put in electricity, there wasn't any. The water system, although we're in a tropical rain area, the rights to water is the biggest hurdle. Took us years. Took us about 5 to 6 years to do that. So the development itself is 150 acres. Our plan now is about 170 to 75 lots. And we are really early on that, just because of all of the kind of behind the scenes changes that I was doing. I froze it. I basically froze it for about 6 or 7 years, just to step back, let the economy come back. And then I had to adjust and get a different set of engineers and different set of studies and soil studies and you name it. So, everything from where do the fire hydrants go, right? So, this is, and by the way, where we are, the area doesn't have pipes for the fire hydrants. So we have to run the pipes. So we spent a year actually negotiating. If it had to be, they wanted 6-inch pipes. We said, well, the town only has 4-inch pipes, and we had to settle on what the law said, which was 6-inch pipes. So it sounds silly, but you spend a lot of time on that. So there'll be 175 homes approximately, God willing, in the next decade there. And yeah.
I was gonna say, it just proves that success doesn't happen overnight, right? I guess it could take years to figure out a pipe inch size.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because the implications of that is we have to run a pipe several kilometers. So yeah, the pipe size does make a difference.
No, that's just super funny to hear as it's happening. You hear all these stories at the end. It's like, oh, we did this and this, but then it's like, but you take the 10 years and break it down. It's like, yeah, we spent a year just debating whether they're going to go 4-inch or 6-inch on the pipes. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
And trying to get the government to understand our side of the story, which, as in all governments around the world, the government always wins.
Well, so this might be an obvious question and maybe an obvious challenge, but when you're managing real estate and vacation rentals in Costa Rica, what is something that most people wouldn't think you'd encounter, or maybe something you encountered on your journey with the actual property management side? Is it the distance between the properties with no roads? What's the overall issue?
Yeah, so we manage those 23 homes. Have if you were to go from the northernmost door to door, so again, there's a main principal highway, but it's 15 minutes up and then 40. It'd be about an hour and 10 minutes if you were to go all the way back. So it's a lot of real estate. So in a coverage area. So, one of the things we had to do, and we made a lot of mistakes, and it's such a cliche, but it was just finding the right people. So that was key, trying to find that person or those groups of people that understand that, Costa Rica is such a global destination. So we have, as we talk today, we have renters from the Netherlands, from England, from Canada, from the United States, and Costa Rica even. So we've got people are bringing their own cultures and beliefs and what they're used to back home. And then they're in what's they consider a third world country, although there's cell phones and some of our homes have fiber optic internet, but it's trying to balance that expectation of that. And then, we all have kind of the funny stories. Just recently we had a renter that was complaining about the heat. And I said, well, you're in the tropical rainforest. So, I don't know what to tell you on that. Right. So sometimes people just aren't clear. Like they have this dream of going to Costa Rica without understanding what that means to go in the tropical, the most biologically intense place on the planet is in Corcovado National Park. That's about an hour and a half from kind of our region. And that's according to National Geographic. So you imagine all the butterflies, the monkeys, the sloths, the toucans, that's on a daily basis. You don't always see the sloths, but you hear the monkeys daily, you hear the toucans. So to get that amazing wildlife, it's all about the other animals. And well, with that comes insects, and it comes snakes and spiders and everything else. So we have to deal with everything, right? You have to deal with a spider. Someone sees a spider or a snake, and to do a concierge of, can you make me a reservation at the best restaurant in the area, or can you get me a private chef? So it's kind of everything in between, and really trying to find the right people that can, stay calm, bring the situation down, and solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, and you guys said you're also, I think you said this to me on a pre-chat, was that you guys are like, what, 3 hours from the airport itself?
Yes. So we're about 3 hours and 15 minutes from the nearest international airport. So that has a whole other set of logistical situations. So, we're really insistent on letting us know when you land into San Jose, which is again the nearest international airport, because we need to know that you've landed, and then keep us updated. So we give them landmarks. Hey, let us know when you pass through Jaco. Let us know when you pass through Capos. That way we can start to plan. And people just think we're being nosy, but I can't have an employee waiting 4 hours because you decided to go to the beach when you told us you'd arrive at 5 and you arrive at 9. So
Yeah.
that is kind of constantly always a little bit of an issue, a big issue for us, just in terms of making sure my staff has time to be with their families and things like that. I mean, otherwise, we all know who's in property management, you'd work 24 hours a day if you don't watch it.
No, true.
So yeah. We have a regional airport about 25 minutes away, but I enjoy it, but again, that's great, but it's a non-pressurized plane. So you go up about 9,000 feet, and some people just with about 20 people, and some people don't like that either, right? Because it bounces a little bit and things like that. So.
Well, and now of course COVID. So now no one's wanting to be that close anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, is it hard for you guys on an operation standpoint? Because I'm in the vacation rental space as well, managing homes, whether they're in different states or different cities, etc. I think the biggest issue is getting your housekeeping team or a maintenance team or somebody to the property when they're so spread out, and especially if they have multiple ones a day. So is that something that you guys have kind of seen as a barrier to, or a barrier to entry, like a kind of a hump to get over?
Yes, it's our biggest time consuming transportation. So
Yeah.
transportation for us is a real big issue. So we use primarily our cleaning staff is primarily women. That's indicative of Latin America anyway, but the just having people having their driver's license, having people be able to get from point A to point B when they need to. So we had challenges in the past, and it's definitely a barrier to entry. And it's why I had to integrate all of those services into the company and just bite the bullet and say, I can't rely on third parties and pay them and then hope and pray that they show up on time. Plus there's some logistical issues of just key exchanges, right? How do you make sure the cleaning staff has the keys? Because again, Costa Rica, you have power outages, just the grid goes down, the Wi-Fi system can be in or out. So I can't rely on remote locks. So we have to still do a lot of physical key exchanges. So I said, I can't be, and we tell our homeowners, we're not just going to share those with anybody. We're going to be there. And again, most of our homeowners are at least 3,000 miles away. So there's a lot of trust and a lot of nervousness, a lot of anxiousness. A lot of our work is trying to keep the owners calm, to let them know your property is in great shape or in great condition. So I've had to integrate the cleaning crews. I have cleaning crews. I have landscaping crews. Because I need to know if the property is not looking great, because again, we're in the tropics, stuff grows quickly. I need to have the accountability, because clients and renters are going to want that property looking as crisp as possible. So, Abigail Vargas is my right-hand person, and she's in charge of all operations. And she spends a lot of time making sure the cleaning crews are ready to go. And with that said, right as we talk today, I've told one of our cleaning crews, she's a woman in her 50s, and she's really great and has experience at a hotel and doing some management. And I said, but she doesn't have a driver's license. So I said, I will pay for your training. I will pay for your testing. And we've bought vehicles. We now have 3 cars. We're buying our second motorcycle right now.
Nice.
We've just had to solve those problems because renters don't care. The renters are flying in from around the world, and they don't want to hear about the fact that the cleaning lady's 2 hours late and the house isn't ready. We'll get crushed on Airbnb because of that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, does this impact the type of properties that you bring on and onboard? Because you said you're at 23, 24, or 25, 23?
23 right now.
Yeah. So does that impact the type of inventory you bring on? Because I looked at your website, and one, great brand, by the way. I love it.
Thanks.
But too, the inventory that you guys have on there is pretty different in some areas. Like you can tell, but they're like all unique, and that's what I think is really cool about vacation rentals. But they're all very unique. Some have pools, some have like big forest right behind it, some
Right.
don't. So it's quite interesting. Is that kind of a role that impacts that?
Well, we're going through that right now as to what, what does the brand stand for? And I'm constantly kind of pushing that. And as all brands do, they evolve.
Mhm.
As with any property management or any new company, you take on every house you can.
Exactly.
And we've done that. And we have, with that said, we fired during COVID, we dropped a couple homeowners. It wasn't right for us.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way the homeowners were treating my staff over the phone and in emails. I just said, it's not worth the money. And one of the homes we were doing quite well with,
Mm.
but it wasn't worth it. I mean, there is a cost. And you think about the amount of emotional energy we were spending placating and almost apologizing for doing what we thought was the right decision to start with. So there, I would say there's always time to go through your customer list, even if you're not as big as you want to be. And, I want to get to 100 homes,
Yeah.
but at the same point, they have to be the right homes. And we're starting to really start to evaluate the homeowner more to make sure it's a good fit. We're also looking at, to your point, the different types of homes. Costa Rica is really interesting, right? I mean, people will oftentimes confuse it with Puerto Rico,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an island country. Costa Rica, just quick geography. So to the north is Nicaragua and to the south is Panama. So, and where we are in Osa specifically, there's mountains that, in parts of it, that basically fall into the ocean. So we have mountain peaks several thousand feet tall, as well as flat plains areas kind of close to the beach. So, one of our first questions is when people say, well, I want to go to Costa Rica. Do you want to be in the mountains where it's cooler, or do you want to be close to the beach? And most Americans always want to be next to the beach.
Mhm.
But again, there's trade-offs with that, which is the heat, higher density of people, and higher density of insects.
Mhm.
So what as people return back and again, they generally will start to push up into the mountains a little bit to get the better view. Yeah, because where we are, there's no condominium. Like if there's no condominiums over 3 stories tall anywhere near us. And a lot of that's because the front of the coast is all national parks and it's all protected. And there's also, as a developer, I can tell you the development laws now are really, really strict in terms of wildlife, in terms of water. And with Costa Rica, all the beaches are public. So even if you were to build a $20 million home in front of the beach, you cannot restrict my access to walk past that. So they measure from high tide, and then they go 50 meters in, and there can be no permanent structures in that 50 meters from high tide. So that provides a buffer zone for anyone and everyone to enjoy the beaches.
No, that's super cool. And I think it sounds like you guys really know the customer like journey from beginning to end when it comes to like they want Costa Rica, but they mostly want the beach, and then they realize, okay, after coming back, they kind of want to go back into the mountains a little bit. Like it sounds like you really know this journey. So is this something that you guys play into kind of how you communicate with the guest and how you market and like other things like that, or is this just really it's the name of the game in Costa Rica? It's a different market compared to it. Like I've interviewed a bunch of other people in different markets, and whether than UK or America or wherever. And this is like so new because all the rest have similar tie-ins, but you don't.
No, and well, part of it is just background. I have my residency in Costa Rica, so
Okay.
and I have my citizenship still and passport for the United States. I have my residency in Costa Rica, and you don't need that to own property there. Although you do need it to work, and that's another thing. But in terms of kind of that customer journey, I remember renting hotel rooms. I remember, and I've rented some homes too. So I've been on the other side. So I try to be real sensitive to what kind of that first time you wake up after traveling all day and you finally get to the vacation home. What's it like when it's the howler monkey start at 5 a.m, right? No matter how many videos I send or I try to explain or send a photo, it never does it justice. So I just try to say, if there's a lot of kind of tense, if people are tense when they get there, I just say, just take a breath. I've been in your shoes. Just give it 24 hours. And I promise you, it's all going to be okay. Because I've been there and I've had to go through that even when I wasn't thinking about it, the thing is now to your point, I can kind of process and think about, okay, these people are flying in from Toronto or flying in from New York City. At this time, they're going to be exhausted, so that's why even in our directions, we say, take a break, have a Coke or a beer or pizza at this place. This is a really nice place. You're going to just trust us, get your groceries at this place. Because once you get to the house, you're not going to want to drive back 40 minutes round trip plus shop time. Just trust us when we tell you that. So yeah, you really have to think about that process. And it does differ, because a lot of our homes, you have to have 4-wheel drive access. You have to have a 4x4 vehicle. There's no paved roads and off the highway, it might be 25 minutes up a mountain with no signs, all gravel, and 4x4 access only. So if you're used to, as most of the world is, used to pavement and asphalt and easy signage and lights, that's not what you're going to get all the time. But when you get there, the journey's worth it, because you're going to have these just epic views, and you're going to have this amazing wildlife. And that's our marketing's pushing that to say, this is all part of the adventure, right? Yeah. This is the pura vida. This is what it's about. So, because the people of Costa Rica is what I love. I've traveled to Panama, and I've traveled to 25, 26 countries of the world. I love the people of Costa Rica. They're fantastic. But, as North Americans, we push, right? We're a society of we push. Costa Ricans, they're pura vida, right? I know I said as the meeting was going to start at 1, but 1:45 is close enough, right? So that became a learning curve too for running a company. Like, you listen, when I say 1 o'clock, the customer expects it at 1. So we've got that down now, and it didn't really take that long because I hired the right people.
Yeah.
But it is something that when renters go out for dinner and say, well, I thought it was, they told me it was going to be 40 minutes to the table and it was an hour and a half. I say, well, that's pura vida. I mean, you're in the jungle or you're near the beach. So let's just enjoy it. Have a beer, have another Imperial beer and enjoy it.
No, that's so funny. I love that you bring that. And you bring up there's no roads or lights or signage and easy access to this and that. It's man, all things that we take for granted here, especially in North America. I just thinking about lights when you're driving, how
street lights.
Yeah.
We had that happen recently on a negative Airbnb review, unfortunately. Same thing. We said they're actually Costa Rican. We said, you have to be there by 9 o'clock. We'll meet you at the highway. We'll escort you up. Pura vida. They said, well, we're not going to make it at 8 o'clock. They let us know they weren't going to make it till midnight. We said, well, you can't, you just shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do it, gall darn it. We're going to, well, guess what? When the Airbnb review came back, they said that, there weren't any signs, and they didn't like our hospitality because we didn't wait up for them till midnight. And I said, well, we told you we kind of had the guidelines.
Yeah.
So those are kind of always adjusting. Just, the Airbnb market, as the expectations increase, the flip side of that is that's fine, but we're going to get stricter with certain things. And we will be unforgiving with certain things as well.
Yeah. And so that made you guys think maybe about doing a shuttle service? Because then they're on your time, technically, if you get them from the airport, right? Is that something that you guys have thought about?
So during COVID, we actually started a tour company.
Okay.
And so we're still in the planning stages. We've got the website, and we kind of did a soft launch, and that talent, if you will, didn't work out. So we're actually hiring right now, in part to do that, to take that customer from the second they land in Costa Rica, to be able to escort them. Yeah, we bought a van. We bought a van. So to be able to do that and hold their hand. Yeah. And obviously there's a financial motive as well, because people are coming down, and yes, we make a good commission on the rentals, but people are coming down spending thousands of dollars on tours. And we just, you can make the phone call and make a little bit, but why not actually do the tour?
Yeah.
My staff is all Costa Rican. I have 16 years in Costa Rica. I know, especially our area. Yeah. We know where the 15 waterfalls are. We know where, everyone knows where the 5 are, but we know where the other 10 are because they're a private property, and we know the people, so all of that, we said, well, this is silly. Why don't we leverage what we know? And fortunately, unfortunately, the fortunate thing is we've been growing our property management company. We haven't found the right person yet to take over the tour company. So we actually have some resumes to go through in the next 10 days to do that. But Yes. So you have to try to
Yeah.
your point, keep pushing them.
Well, that was my next question too, and I think it's really good into it. But is how have you guys been managing through COVID? What was kind of like the biggest thing? Like, granted, thankfully, vacation rentals overall throughout the world are doing better than most. Actually, I'll just say it, all segments of hospitality.
Yeah.
And so, what's that been like for you guys with Costa Rica? Obviously, is international travel not happening as much? Is that the thing?
Correct. So what happened was when I was in Costa Rica, so around March 20th, 2020, Costa Rica government shut the borders, said nobody, nobody in, and only repatriation flights out. So I was screen capturing the San Jose airport's website, and it got to the point where there were 0 flights out or in. So because to get in, you had to have your residency or citizenship. So I could get in, but then I wasn't going to be able to get back out. And so I go back and forth. So the challenge was, okay, what do we do? So I said, well, and everybody knew it was coming. So, the State Department of the United States and Costa Rica's equivalent was kind of saying, get home. So we talked to our renters at the time and just said, just be aware, be ready. So what we did during COVID, when COVID hit, I told the staff, I go, listen, you can feel sorry for yourself for like a day and then get over it, because you know what? We need to do more. We need to improve our services, improve our processes. We were doing well, but I said we should be doing better. And it actually forced us, and it provided us the time to get better. So, for us, we use Hostfully as our property management software. And I had spoken to them, and I was one of their early customers, and they kept sending me emails or calling me, hey, are you using this feature? Are you using this feature? And it was, I don't have time, or we took the time, and suddenly, oh my gosh, our life, we saved hours and hours a week just with some of the features on the software. So it was really, really great for us. At the same time, we had a pretty good stable. About a third of our renters were long-term renters anyway. And then we got some calls from San Jose. So like San Jose has a large Amazon.com presence. Intel is there. Well, the work remote was pushing through. So San Jose is about 3.5 million people. It's like any urban area, lots of people in little spaces. So we were getting calls from senior managers wanting a home between 30 days and 6 months. So, that was great for a select, probably about half of our owners did okay to well. The other half didn't do so well. And that was, at the same time, it was what it was. So, I mean, we weren't making any money either. So, that's one of the things I always tell our homeowners. I said, listen, yes, we charge a monthly fee, but I've got a lot of expenses, and I can, my workers by Costa Rican law have to have health care.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pay them a salary. So yes, although I have a staff, those staff cost me real money. So we don't make money unless the rentals are in play. So during that time, I said, let's get over it and lick our wounds, because this is going to wipe some companies out.
Yeah.
We picked up some homes because property managers were, one, working illegally, but two, immigration wise, and two, couldn't get into the country. So we were getting calls from homeowners saying, my property manager's stuck in California, and I don't know, he's got my keys to my house in Costa Rica. What do I do? So we, call the locksmith, and we would start managing that home then, because all of our staff obviously is Costa Rican.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, we did that, as well as we really started to focus on, you couldn't stop landscaping, and you couldn't stop doing your pool service, because we were getting sporadic rentals. We were getting a lot of, because 16 years in Costa Rica, we have a pretty good database of local market.
Yeah.
So that local market has money. So we were doing 2 to 3 day rentals for Costa Ricans. And we never knew which house was going to get picked up. And I said, listen, it's going to cost you more to fix your pool in 3 months if you drain it and all just the monthly cost for the pool is about $120. Just pay that. And you're going to be ready to go whenever somebody calls us or when this market turns. And then at the same time, we focused on doing a lot of repairs. And and talking to homeowners and saying, listen, again, we are in the tropical rainforest. You got to stay ahead of the paints painting and fighting molds and insect infestations. And so it was a time and water mitigation is a big thing. So we did some major water mitigation projects at homes. We did some beautification projects, planting hundreds and hundreds of ornamentals and some flowers on properties, really making it saying at some point, this is all going to go away. Not totally. And I think, the future trends we can discuss, but it allowed our homeowners and allowed us to focus on the property and get down to the nitty gritty, the actual structure of the property. And again, a lot of our property management competitors in our market are strictly the vacation rentals, and they're just pulling commissions, which again is fine, but they got hit really hard.
Mm-hmm.
We too got hit, but because we have the other services, we grew. I mean, we opened a second office during the middle of COVID, and that helped us in our negotiation on the rent, of course. So, so we got a great rent. We got a 3-year lease at COVID pricing on a small little office space. So I just said, I'm in this for the long term. Mm-hmm. So at some level, I'm not going to look at the financials. Like you always have to look at the financials, but at some level, if you're in it, you're in it. So I said, now as the market's going down, now's the time to grow. So I invested pretty heavily in assets.
Well, I was going to say, go ahead. It sounds like you've not only improved your quality control of properties, whether it's, the maintenance and the, day-to-day stuff, like kind of advising your homeowners, don't drain your pool because it's going to be just as more expensive, if not, 10 times more when 3 months later. But then you also kind of honed in on the pillars and the improvement of the operations in the sense of using the integrations or tools that Hostfully was like, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you doing this? Right. What's been the biggest one that you see yourselves never letting go? Like post-COVID, things get back to normal, international travel's on fire, you guys are busy. What's something that you guys are never going to let go of? Operationally, for sure. And then definitely property-wise.
Well, I mean, I'm still looking at growing. In fact, I'm looking at going national in Costa Rica under a different brand name because Osa doesn't make sense for.
Yeah.
And in terms of, I feel comfortable with what we've done. I mean, I think we've got a model that seems to work for us.
Yeah.
You just got to commit. I mean, you just have to decide and.
Well, it sounds like just during the downtime when everyone freaked out and was like, all right, we're going to put our heads under the rocks or in the sand. Kind of like I had a friend in the UK kind of described it as an ostrich, where they kind of just stick their head in the sand and said, well, we'll wait until everything's back to normal. Which is fine for some people. They just don't have the, the capital to continue to move when the revenues get below a certain number. But it sounds like you guys really took advantage of this downtime to say, this is where we're going to improve because when it does come back, we need to be on our A game. And I think that's pretty much what you guys did in the sense of growth and then using the tools that were already at your disposal.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, the software for us really helped and allowed us to, it's allowing us to scale pretty quickly. And so that for us, it's just onboarding and training the others as they come on board and how to use it. And for us, it's been fantastic because we've all had the nightmares of the double bookings, which happened before Hostfully, and then we had iCal links breaking and things like that. So obviously that's not an issue. So for us, I mean, that's kind of our secret weapon, if you will. And in fact, I obviously on this podcast, I'm sharing it, but I don't even share it with our homeowners. I don't share it because I don't, depending on who listens to this, we're not sure anyone else in the market uses it. We know there's one other company, Northern Costa Rica, which it's not even our market. So 5 hours from us. So that's great. But, and I'm sure it's the same thing for them it's a great affordable option that's super easy to use and scalable.
Yeah, no, I love that. What are you guys going to, I guess, what does the future look like now? Are you guys seeing anything happen? Any kind of movement when it comes to I think you just kind of briefly talked about, you have people from Dubai or Netherlands and other stuff like that. So it sounds like you guys are getting a little bit of traction. Is that something you see in the near future?
Yeah. I mean, the world is, it's full of cliches, but I mean, Canada, Trudeau just said, canceled all flights for Air Canada, and some other airlines are no longer flying to Mexico, the Caribbean, or Central America. And the Canadian market for us is really big. So we've seen some cancellations on that. We've seen, so as countries adjust, we have to adjust. We're really seasonal as well. December to March is when we were even this past season, December to March, we're at about 80 to 90% occupied. Our down season is October always, and that might be 20%, 15%, just because it's the rainy season and people don't take vacations then. And the Costa Rican summer corresponds to the winters of the Northern Hemisphere. So right now it's 10 below in Minnesota, but it's 90 degrees in Costa Rica. And it's kind of like that every February. So it's a good,
all the snowbirds.
That's right.
Like, yeah.
That's right. So, so we're dealing with that. Costa Rica has its own, you have to have a health pass that's by the Department of Health to get into Costa Rica. And it's a questionnaire, and you have to download a QR code. And so there, and you also have to have insurance now to enter Costa Rica. So I see more of that being adopted around the world. So in Costa Rica's case, you have to do this questionnaire, and then you have to have travel. It's not travel insurance from the standpoint of your ticket. It's health insurance. So the health insurance has to cover $50,000 of medical care and $2,000 of lodging. That's the minimum thing, because they said, listen, you might be healthy and you might test positive for COVID, so you need somewhere to stay. So from a short-term rental standpoint, that's not all bad, right? Because we haven't gotten the call yet, but I do expect to get the call sometime of someone can't leave the country because they have COVID. And then there's insurance companies out there. There's 2 local ones in Costa Rica, and there's Trawick. I hope I'm saying that right. And I just spoke to their vice president last week because we're gonna kind of do some marketing with them, or push them, the clients. But to be able to have those short-term renters call to say, I have this insurance policy and I can't leave the country. So, and the United States now is mandating the COVID test, right, within 72 hours. So for the last 2 weeks, we've spent a lot of time calling medical clinics, and there's, thankfully in Costa Rica, there's a lot of them. Even our rural area, there's a hospital nearby, and there's some private clinics. But we spent a lot of time making sure that, so not only is the scheduling, but it's also, it's $100 to $150 per test. So everyone in your party has to have that now to get back in the United States. So suddenly that family of 4 is spending up to $600 just to fly back home. Well, they're not going to rent as long then, or they're not going to come at all, or they're not, so we've run into that a bit of clients that never booked, but I was confident we're going to book. And then the local testing to get back in the United States, that cost, and then the insurance cost, it's just adding, and that money doesn't go to us or anyone else. That's going to insurance and government.
Yeah, no, that's crazy to think about. The barrier to entry for travel now is increasing, and it's kind of out of our control, unfortunately, which, granted, whether your beliefs are one way or the other, it sounds like it's not making it easier for.
That's right.
Like, from what I'm hearing from you guys, you're being very proactive on, well, we're working with insurance companies to do this, and we're doing this, but at the end of the day, it could go like that. And that's what's kind of
absolutely
scary.
Yeah. And not only that, so again, make lemonade when you can. So we get, and I'm sure everyone listening to this or anyone involved with property management or short-term rentals, right? That you get the call that, oh, well, I can't travel because of COVID, or I don't want to. Now I have the reason to say, listen, you have insurance. You have to have insurance to get in here. Yeah. And by the way, we at Osa Property Management, again, we're not going to study 210 countries around the world and your local municipality and whatnot and the other. Okay. We have a house in Costa Rica with your name on it. If for whatever reason you can't make it, there is travel insurance out there. Yeah. So, and that has been, some companies are super forgiving, and, we can't be. I mean, for example, right now, as we speak in February 2021, we have a third of our inventory for Christmas and New Year's 2021, 2022. I can't say, well, wait a minute, 48 hours before, if you cancel, you're going to get a refund. That doesn't work that way. We can't do that, because when you're an international destination, people have to plan, and they have to get time off of work, and they have to get their kids out of school, and So it's a big decision, and I can't be opening and closing inventory on a whim, especially now with insurance a mandate. So at least there's a backup plan for travelers.
Yeah.
And all things considered, it isn't that expensive. And so I'm using that as a benefit for us to say you've got insurance. So if you can't travel, cash in your insurance policy.
hmm Well, and if you're getting bookings that far ahead, which is a good sign in my opinion, I have a friend in Florida who just finally has gotten like I think 15-year advance bookings, so people are feeling comfortable to like granted, yes, a year, so a lot can happen, but they're starting to feel comfortable to get back to their yearly tradition of we go to this spot every year and we love it and we want to have that experience a moment. So it's a good thing that you guys are seeing that, but also like you said, as things happening, it gets closer and the insurance or the regulation changes or whatever, they have time to in order to prep for that. And you guys as the property manager can communicate that with them and make sure that you guys are all very, very transparent with it and ready to rock.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. Again, it gets back to that whole customer experience. You know, from the business standpoint, we make the money when the house is rented. So we need to do everything in our power to make it comfortable and convenient and easy, even if it's not. It has to come across as that.
Yeah.
And so that's, kind of as I'm sure you know, right? Everyone thinks, oh, it's great. You just get houses and people will show up and it's a magic pixie dust.
Yeah.
But this has made it, definitely more interesting. And I foresee the insurance thing being everywhere in the near future. And why not? I mean, I understand a country, especially like Costa Rica, that's comparatively or relatively speaking, poorer than others.
Yeah.
You can't have a bunch of, and tourism is really, really important to their economy, hugely important. So they have to do everything they can to protect their own economy as well as to protect their citizens. So they're trying to do the best they can by having insurance options and things like that. So at least they're not going broke while foreigners come into their country. So I think it's a smart move. And I foresee other countries doing something like that. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, Hawaii went through a similar thing, throughout the whole COVID time. They're very dependent on tourism, 100%. And that's their market. And so they've had to, they were hurting, and they've had to implement stuff such as testing and insurance and quarantine.
Oh, you have to do that. I didn't realize that. But yeah,
I'm not sure if the insurance is 100% in effect, but I do know the 2-week mandate of quarantining and stuff or I think they lowered it from 2 to like 9 days, but you have to get 3 positive or negative tests and within like a certain time frame, then they shorten it on you. But still, it's a very costly expense, but they depend on tourism. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So it sounds like just Costa Rica in itself is not only are you dealing with the jungle against you in the sense of you can't control the jungle, as we all know, and then of course now we have all this to mix into it. But like you said, you're making lemonade out of lemons, and and it's really cool to hear a different, like, it's kind of refreshing on my side of the mic, because I'm hearing different locations throughout the States and through other countries, and like we already know the situation in the UK, we already know the situation here, we already know the situation in Canada, but to hear a destination that's so unique to itself on the show it's a different perspective in a lot.
No, I mean, we have to, well, and even now there's driving restrictions based on your license plate. So I mean, there's driving restrictions, there's insurance restrictions. I mean, so there's lots of things. But again, we can overcome that with, we can write letters as being part of the travel industry. We have the authority to write letters on behalf of our renters that they can travel as long as they're making a destination run. So that's things we don't have to do, obviously, but it's something we do just to make sure our clients and renters, don't have any problems with getting to the house and having a great time.
For sure. No, I definitely agree. Well, what's something that maybe you could say to the audience that you're like, throughout your whole journey of being in the vacation rental side of stuff, what's one thing you would like love to leave them with, whether it's advice or just something you've learned or anything?
Well, I think it's like anything, but you better love it. You absolutely better love this, and you better love change, and you better, do everything we can't control laws and we can't control COVID or anything else. So you just have to be able to adapt. We've adapted we've integrated like I said, our cleaning, our construction, we just had to. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work. Every market's a little different. And I know sometimes it's easier to just outsource everything. We don't have that option. So you have to love it, and you have to solve problems. I mean, I pound that into our people all the time, and everyone knows it. Like, Abigail, who runs it, the operations, and Walter runs our construction. They know, like, tell me a problem, that's fine, but you better have a solution. So anytime, we communicate constantly via WhatsApp and group chats and with our cleaning crews and our landscaping crews. And so I always know what's going on, and everyone knows what's going on. But if there's a problem and you don't know what to do, just say, I don't know what to do, but here's an idea. So, and that's true for long-term, short-term rentals. There's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's within your control and sometimes it's not. So you better love solving problems, and you better hire people that love solving problems, or they're not the right people for you.
That's some of the most solid advice. It goes to anything, and not just short-term rentals. I think if you love, it goes to life when you're doing your career, whether it's working for somebody or starting your business or whatever, you better love it, because at the end of the day, this is your life, and you only got one shot basically.
Well, so, we should never look at how much we make per hour, right? Because, that's short-term rentals, right? We get calls at 11 o'clock at night. We're not supposed to be, there you are. Or the website needs updating, or the photo, whatever it is. There's never enough time in the day. So if you didn't enjoy it, you'd burn out really quickly.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just on yesterday, Monday, I spent 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. working in the office. Didn't come home till like almost 10. So yeah, definitely you don't look at your hours, hourly pay, but no, it's definitely something. It takes a certain person. And granted, I know plenty of people in the space that, say I have 12 properties and I spend about 5 hours a week, and I have everything automated. I have a great team. I have this, I have that. And that's their life, and they go spend their free time doing whatever. But it all depends on the goals, and I think, like you said though, you gotta love it. And at the end of the day, if you love it, you gotta do it right. And I love that you guys took the downtime to really implement some just the way you guys operate and what you're gonna do for the future. And I'm looking forward to hopefully coming out to one of your properties. And
come on down. We'd love to have you. It'd be great.
I was gonna say,
we have to do a podcast from down there.
Exactly. I was going to say, not just to do a podcast, like a poolside or beachside, but to also have a beer or two.
I would have loved that.
Awesome. Well, Nick, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Where can people find you? Obviously, I'm going to take everything in the show notes and have it there for everyone that's listening to just click at the click of a button. But what's your go-to spot for everyone to go find you?
Sure. Osa Property Management.com. So Osa is just OSA. And then propertymanagement.com. And then we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, even Flickr, because Costa Rica's got so much beauty. We've got thousands of photos, and pretty much all the channels. So osaproperty.com is the best place to find everything. And just click the contact page if you want information, or if you want to talk to me or anything. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, you heard it, Slick Talkers. So look at the show notes. Go to osapropertymanagement.com. You can find everything there. And of course, we will see you guys again next week.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.